Good morning, student. Today we are starting with the third chapter in biology, class 12th, that is human reproduction, student. In this, we are going to study varieties of questions, and in that, like first one is male reproductive system, then female reproductive system. In male, we have to study LS of testes, TS of testes, then section of ovary, then very important structure of ovum, structure of sperm or spermatozoa, then their production of sperm called spermatogenesis, production of ovum called oogenesis, then hormonal control of spermatogenesis, oogenesis, hormonal control of student menstrual cycle, and ultimately embryogenesis. So student, let us start with the first part of this chapter, that is in male reproductive system. The first part is longitudinal section of testes, LS of testes. So student, this is very important. LS, after LS when we will study TS, transverse section, that is very important for your practical course also. That is in third part of practical, that is slide of TS of testes. So let us start. So student, this is longitudinal section of testes. Testes is protected in a sac. This black line you are observing, student, this black line, outermost one. This sac is called scrotal sac or scrotum, isn't it? Testis protected in a sac called scrotal sac or scrotum. Then when we come inside the scrotal sac, this membrane is called tunica vaginalis. Outermost membrane, protective membrane, that is tunica vaginalis, student. Observe carefully the outermost. And the second one is tunica albugina. Tunica albugina. Then third one is tunica vasculosa. Tunica vasculosa. Student, when we study in the detail the internal structure, these glandular cells, small grape-like cells, there are 20 to 25 glandular or grape-like cells. These are called testicular lobules. Testicular lobules. Now when we study in detail, one testicular lobule, it consists of this coiled tube-like structure called seminiferous tubule. Seminiferous tubule. Now observe carefully, student, these red structures within this seminiferous tubule are called Leydig's cell. Leydig's cells are interstitial tissue. Interstitial tissue, student. These are the important cells which secretes male hormone testosterone. We will study in detail later on. So student, this outermost layer, the sac is called scrotal sac, and inside that the outermost membrane is tunica vaginalis, second one is tunica albugina, third one is tunica vasculosa, and then student, these are testicular lobules. And when we see testicular lobules in detail, the outermost is seminiferous tubule. Within this, these are Leydig cells or interstitial tissues. Now let us study here on this right side. This seminiferous tubules, when it comes out from this testicular lobules, This form a structure called rete testis. Student, rete testis has the meaning, these two words. Rete means reticula. Reticula means network. Network coming out from the this testicular lobules is called rete testis. And when this rete testis comes out here, it forms this. When this comes out rete testis, it forms vasa efferentia or vas efferens. Vasa efferentia is plural and vas efferens is singular. And then student, this vasa efferentia, this opens in vas deferens indirectly. That is your, we call it sperm duct. Once again, seminiferous tubule, when it comes out from the testicular lobules, it forms rete testis, network of these tubes, and when it comes out of this testis, it is called vasa efferentia. Any structure coming out is called efferent, and then this opens in vas deferens or vasa deferentia. Singular is vas deferens, that is sperm duct. Before that, it opens in epididymis. Student, observe this last concluding part of this LS very carefully. This is vasa efferentia and this is epididymis. Epididymis consists of three parts. The upper is called capute epididymis. Cap means the head. Capute epididymis. Then this main body is called corpus epididymis. Corpus means body. Corpus means body. And the last part, tail region of the epididymis, is called cauda. Cauda means tail part. Cauda epididymis. Epididymis. So student, observe these three parts of epididymis carefully. This first part is capute epididymis. Second one is corpus epididymis, the body, main body, and third one is cauda epididymis. So student, this is LS of testis. Now the next part will be TS of testis. Student, remember TS means transverse section. So one section will pass from here and then we will observe the section, what will come in between. You see what will come, seminiferous tubule, Leydig cells, all this will come in the section. Now student, we are on the same structure, testis, but student, this is TS, transverse section. So that was the longitudinal section of testis, but when we take TS, transverse section, student, remember the testicular lobules. In that, these are the seminiferous tubules. All these circular structures are seminiferous tubules, and between seminiferous tubules, student, if you remember, what were these? Interstitial cells or Leydig cells, student. Leydig cells, and all these are connective tissue, isn't it? There will be no vacuum, na? These are the connective tissue. Imagine the TS of testis, student. Now let us see one seminiferous tubule TS in detail. You see this black line. This black line you are seeing, student, this circular black line is one seminiferous tubule. Seminiferous tubule. This is the second one. And now let us see it in detail. The wall of the seminiferous tubule, this is lined with germinal epithelium. Germinal. Student, I am using capital letter because these words in the capital letter, germinal epithelium, then this number 1 spermatogonium cell, second spermatocyte, and third spermatid. These you are going to study. These are the stages of spermatogenesis, asked in long answer type of question. So germinal epithelium is the wall of this seminiferous tubule, isn't it? Now during spermatogenesis, this germinal epithelium will divide to produce spermatogonium. Spermatogonium. This one, number 1. This blue one is spermatogonium, and then that will divide to produce or to form spermatocyte. Spermatocyte. Then third one, spermatid. Student, these 3 stages are very important. Spermatid. And when this spermatid develops tail, it becomes mature sperm or spermatozoa. Spermatozoon, isn't it? Spermatogenesis. So we are studying this in detail in another question. And this last but not least, you are seeing, student, these conical cells. These are cells of Sertoli or Sertoli cells. Sertoli cells, significance or function is asked for 1 mark in section, maybe in section 1, section A. That is, what is the role of Sertoli cells? Student, these Sertoli cells, it provides nourishment and support to these developing spermatocytes. It is also called nurse cell. When you will see the course of NEET, these are also called nurse cells because it nourishes the developing spermatocytes or spermatozoa and provides supports. Student, now this diagram, student, very important diagram, and this diagram will form the basis of 3 questions. One is your structure of ovary itself, showing the development of Graafian follicle, ovulation and corpus luteum. Second question, student, which is the basis of this, will be, the second question will be hormonal control of oogenesis, and then third one will be hormonal control of the menstrual cycle. Student, this diagram is very important. Pay attention. So please read this line carefully. Structure of ovary showing 3 things: Graafian follicle, development of Graafian follicle, then ovulation and corpus luteum. So one by one I will show you these 3 processes occurring in this structure. Ready, student? Student, this red line you observe, lining the ovary, lining this ovary is called, here also there is germinal epithelium which give rise to germ cells. How it give rise? Germinal epithelium. Isn't it? This divides, germinal epithelium, student, divide to produce small primary cells called primordial cells. Primordial cells. Student, now this primordial cell divides by mitosis division to produce your developing follicular cells. Developing follicular cells. Now this developing follicular cell will grow to form maturing. Developing will grow to form maturing follicular cells. Ultimately, this will become mature to form or to become mature. Pay attention, student. Mature Graafian follicle or ovarian follicle. Now, this mature Graafian follicle consists of follicular fluid, follicular cells, and ovum in between. You see, student, this green structure, ovum. Now, this is mature Graafian follicle. Now, this mature Graafian follicle, it ruptures to release ovum. After 14 days, after the development, after the 14 days, ovulation occurs. This process is called ovulation. Isn't it? This phenomenon is called ovulation, student. And now the concluding step. Observe carefully. The remnant, whatever remains, remnant, yani ki whatever remains after the ovulation and release of the ovum in the fallopian tube, or you can say funnel of oviduct, the remaining part of the Graafian follicle is called corpus luteum. Corpus means, student, you know, body, and luteum means, student, yellow body, that is corpus luteum. This corpus luteum and Graafian follicle, they produce female hormones. Slowly and gradually, by producing female hormones, estrogen and progesterone, it gets smaller and smaller, and it becomes a white body called corpus albicans. Corpus albicans. And student, in between this structure where blood vessels and nerve cells are found, this structure is called medulla. This is ovarian medulla, and the surrounded structure here, this surrounded portion is called ovarian cortex. Student, let us recap once. We are studying structure of ovary showing development of Graafian follicle, ovulation and formation of corpus luteum. First, germinal epithelium cell divide to produce primordial cells, then they divide mitotically to produce developing follicular cells. Developing follicular cells grow to form maturing follicular cells, then mature Graafian follicle, then they rupture for ovulation of the ovum, and the remaining part is called corpus luteum. Now, this Graafian follicle and corpus luteum, these are the bodies producing female hormones, and slowly and gradually it becomes diminished after releasing the female hormone, and becomes a small white body called corpus albicans. Children, now we are studying very simple structure, that is the structure of spermatozoa and ovum. So you are familiar with this structure. Student, this you have studied in class 10th. That is the structure of sperm or spermatozoa. So externally it is divided into three parts. Structure of ovum is externally divided into three parts: head, and this one is midpiece, head, midpiece and tail. So these three can be labeled externally, and this head of the sperm, very popular labeling, acrosome. Acron means student head and zoma means the body. That is the head of the cap of the head of the sperm, acrosome, made up of Golgi complex. And this is nucleus. There is the neck region, centriole. Centriole in the neck region. This is neck region. And student, this is spiral mitochondria. Well developed mitochondria is there in sperm. You know why? Because it has to cover a large distance from male reproductive tract to female reproductive tract. So the mitochondria in the sperm is well developed. Spiral mitochondria or mitochondria. This is principal piece. In the tail region, the first part you see, this red part is principal piece, and then the end part in the tail region is end piece. So you are familiar with this structure. In basic class you have studied. This is the structure of spermatozoa or sperm. Now here, very important, this structure is new for you. In 10th you have not studied this structure. It is in detail. That is structure of human ovum or egg. Student, very important for NEET examination, that human ovum or egg is alacethal. Alacethal. Ovum in the human is alacethal. Alacethal means, student, devoid of yolk. Yolk is not in this. Only this cytoplasm is there. Dense cytoplasm. Cytoplasm is also called vitellus. In biological language, cytoplasm is called vitellus. So this membrane of the cytoplasm will be vitelline membrane. This one, this membrane will be vitelline membrane, and this space will be peri-vitelline space. Peri-vitelline. Peri means around, vitelline space. Isn't it? And now we found this structure after ovulation. After ovulation, when the ovum is in the funnel of oviduct, we find first polar body. First polar body. Now the detail of this polar body you are going to study just after this in oogenesis. In oogenesis. Then this is what, student? These are the spindle observed in the second meiotic division. Second meiotic division. Well, student, these are the cells of corona radiata. Cells of corona radiata. Isn't it? And this structure, very important structure, student. I am using different color for this. This transparent, I have used green color for this. This transparent layer is called zona pellucida. Zona pellucida. This formed by the deposition of polysaccharides, and these are the cells of corona radiata. Let us recap once the structure of ovum, student. Human ovum is alacethal, student. Alacethal means devoid of yolk. Then it consists of dense cytoplasm, that is called vitellus in biology, and so the membrane is called perivitelline membrane, and the space is called perivitelline space. between zona pellucida and perivitelline membrane. Then this is first polar body, isn't it? And this is spindle seen during second meiotic division, isn't it? This is first polar body. Student, this is first polar body. We will study this first polar body during oogenesis. And this, last but not least, this layer, transparent layer, is called zona pellucida layer, student, isn't it? Now student, a very interesting structure, that is human ovum. This diagram is of human ovum, female, that is egg. Very interesting line. Human ovum is alacethal. Student, alacethal means what? Alacethal means devoid of yolk. Very negligible, or it is devoid of yolk. Then what it has? It has dense cytoplasm. This is cytoplasm. Student, cytoplasm of the human ovum is also called vitellus. VITELLUS, vitellus. And so this membrane will be vitelline membrane. This membrane will be vitelline membrane, and this space will be perivitelline space. Perivitelline. Vitelline. Peri means what, student? Around. Periphery. Vitelline space. And student, this structure is seen, this ovum, after ovulation, when it comes in the funnel of oviduct. At that time we observe first polar body. First polar body. Now what is first polar body? Just after this you will study during spermatogenesis, stages of spermatogenesis. And this structure, the nucleus, can be labeled as, we find a prominent spindle fiber during second meiotic division of the cell. So we can label it as nucleus or spindle observed during second meiotic division. And this red structure, small, these are the cells of corona radiata. Cells of corona radiata. And this green layer, you are seeing, student, this green layer, last but not the least, this transparent green layer is called zona pellucida. Zona pellucida. Zona pellucida, student, this is a transparent layer. So all this is about the human ovum, which is alacethal. Good morning, student. Student, now we are studying spermatogenesis. Very important topic related to male reproductive system. Student, spermatogenesis. Spermatogenesis means, student, development or production of the sperm in testes. And the parallel and opposite process will be oogenesis, student. And both these processes completes in 3 stages. That is multiplication phase. First phase is multiplication phase. Second is growth phase. And third is maturation phase, student. Student, remember the diagram of the seminiferous tubule where this spermatogenesis occurs. Spermatogenesis occurs, you know, the wall of the seminiferous tubule is called germinal epithelium or primary germ cells. Primary germ cells divide by 2 mitosis divisions. 2 times by mitosis division to produce many. These are spermatogonia. All these are spermatogonia. spermatogonium, and plural is spermatogonia. Student, all these cells means from one primary germ cell 4 spermatogonia are formed because they develop by mitosis division. So there is no change in the number of chromosome. So this is the multiplication phase, because from one 4 are produced. So this is multiplication phase. Now second stage, student, growth phase. Second stage is growth phase. In this phase, we can consider the example of one spermatogonium. It grows in size by developing cytoplasm, more cytoplasm, and this is, student, primary spermatocyte. Primary spermatocyte, isn't it? Now the last stage, student, last step of spermatogenesis is maturation phase. In maturation phase, student, this primary spermatocyte will divide by meiosis first. Meiosis 1, that is the first maturation phase. First maturation phase, and will produce 2 daughter cells. Because it is meiosis division in primary spermatocyte, so student, remember very important point, number of chromosome reduces to half. Meiosis means reductional division. So number of chromosome reduces to half. Now student, if this parent cell was primary spermatocyte, this will be secondary spermatocyte. Secondary spermatocyte, isn't it? Now ultimately, this secondary spermatocyte will go for meiosis second, that is the second maturation division. Second maturation division, and student, this will become this cell, because it is second maturation division, and that is mitosis. So the number of chromosome will be same, XX, and this is called spermatids. This cell is called spermatid. You just observe, student, and just see what is the difference between this spermatid and spermatozoa. Spermatid is without tail. So spermatid go through a process called spermiogenesis. Spermiogenesis, in which the spermatid loses the circular shape and become little bit elongated, and acrosome develops, and tail is observed. Tail is also developed. And now this is not called spermatid, but it is called mature spermatozoa or sperm. Spermatozoa. So these are the 3 main phases of spermatogenesis: multiplication phase, growth phase, and maturation phase. Student, let us recap on. In multiplication phase, primary germ cell divide by 2 mitosis and produce 2 to the 4 daughter cells, and all these are called spermatogonium, and in oogenesis this will be called as oogonium. Remember the parallel word, oogonium. And then the second one is growth phase, student. In growth phase, this spermatogonium will develop into primary spermatocyte, will become little bit larger, and in oogenesis this primary spermatocyte word will be replaced by primary oocyte, and the consequent processes are same. The division, the first this primary spermatocyte will divide by first maturation division, because the third stage is maturation phase. So by this word you remember first maturation division. You can say first maturation phase or first maturation division, you can write here first maturation division, and due to this primary spermatocyte will become secondary spermatocyte, and ultimately secondary spermatocyte after second maturation division, that is the mitosis, will become spermatid, and ultimately this spermatid will go through, finally they will go through spermiogenesis. Very important definition for board exam. Spermiogenesis, student, spermiogenesis means in this the circular outline of the spermatid loses that shape, become little bit elongated, and will develop acrosome and tail. That is called spermiogenesis. And then that is called, this structure is not called spermatid but spermatozoon, and then they are released from seminiferous tubule by a process called spermiation, isn't it? Student, the second parallel and opposite process is oogenesis of spermatogenesis, isn't it? Either they ask explain spermatogenesis, stages of spermatogenesis or oogenesis. Otherwise, they can ask you differentiate between spermatogenesis and oogenesis. So now when I will explain you oogenesis, you try to find out the differences. Biology has one advantage, it is diagrammatic subject, and sometimes diagram helps you in memorizing many things, many topics. So you try to sort out the differences, isn't it? You see everything, number of the cells are same, only the difference, and the name of the stages are also same. 3 stages again, 3 phases: multiplication phase, growth phase, and third one is maturation phase. Then you see what is the difference. The first difference is the diagram. When you draw this diagram in your board exam of oogenesis, from right side you make these 4 circles smaller. 1, 2, 3 and 4 circles smaller because these are the polar bodies. So I am starting with the oogenesis. Ready? See, the first stage is multiplication. Same thing. Here also you can write here either germinal epithelium or primary germ cell. They divide by mitosis division for 2 times. Mitosis for how many times? 2 times mitosis to produce 4 daughter cells, and these are called, in spermatogenesis it was called spermatogonia, and here they are called oogonia. Oogonia is plural and oogonium is singular. So oogonia, that ends the multiplication phase by mitosis. So there is no change in the number of chromosome, 2x, 2x. Now the second phase, student, as usual, growth phase. In this, let us see what happens in one oogonium. Because it is growth phase, so the cell will grow in the size. Again, there is no change in the number of chromosome, only the cell grows in the size. So this, when this oogonia grows in the size, now it is called primary oocyte. Remember, student, in spermatocyte it was called primary spermatocyte, here primary oocyte. Now from here there is difference in spermatogenesis and oogenesis from here. In this first maturation division of maturation phase, this primary oocyte, first maturation division of the maturation phase, the primary oocyte will not divide into 2 equal body, but one will be secondary oocyte, and this is the polar body. Remember, student, when I have drawn the diagram of ovum, I told you first polar body. This is the first polar body, isn't it? And this part is called secondary oocyte, and this is observed during ovulation. It is observed during ovulation. You know what is, student, ovulation? Ovulation is the release of ovum after rupturing of Graafian follicle. And the last step, student, is the second maturation division. First maturation division was meiosis. So the number of chromosome from 2x became x. And second maturation division, here the second maturation division is mitosis. So the number of chromosome will be same, and now this will be also called as polar bodies. These polar bodies, they degenerates. Now this secondary oocyte will divide into a large body called ovum by mitosis division, and this is second polar body. So altogether, student, how many polar body we observe in last year? 3 polar bodies and 1 ovum or 1 large egg cell, isn't it? So now let us find out the differences between spermatogenesis and oogenesis. So what difference you observe if you compare the last diagram? What difference you observe? First difference, student, where does it occurs? Remember the first difference. Spermatogenesis occurs in testes, seminiferous tubule, and this occurs in ovary. Second difference, students, here there spermatogonia develop, here oogonia develop. Then third difference, student, what you observe the third difference? Polar bodies are found. In oogenesis we find polar bodies, unequal, cytoplasm divides unequally, and these are the polar bodies. And the last important difference, in spermatogenesis you have seen from one primary germ cell we get 4 spermatozoa in spermatogenesis, but here we get only one from one, that is only one ovum in the last from one primary germ cell. So these are the major differences of spermatogenesis and oogenesis. Remember, student, these 3 phases: multiplication phase where they multiply, growth phase where it grows, and then maturation phase where it get mature by 2 maturation division. First maturation division is meiosis and second maturation division is mitosis. Student, now we have to study hormonal control of both the processes, spermatogenesis and oogenesis. So when we study hormonal control, we see both the things, positive feedback and negative feedback. So let us start, student. Hormonal control of spermatogenesis. Student, this is brain. Our brain has a master endocrine gland, you know very well, that is pituitary. Pituitary gland is master endocrine gland, isn't it? So this secretes 2 hormones. You just see, one is LH, luteinizing hormone. In male it is called interstitial cells stimulating hormone. This is one hormone secreted by pituitary for hormonal control of spermatogenesis. LH is called ICSH in male. And student, second one is FSH, follicle stimulating hormone, FSH. Student, just emphasize on these 3 numbers. One, first hormone, or this you can say second hormone ICSH, first FSH, and third one is inhibin. So let us see how does it control the spermatogenesis. Observe positive and as well as negative feedback. Let us start now. In the first step, pituitary secretes FSH and LH, follicle stimulating hormone. It stimulates the maturation of the spermatogonia. Follicle stimulating hormone stimulates the maturation of spermatogonia. Student, this is testis and these are spermatogonia. You have studied spermatogonia, isn't it? This is the role of FSH. And second hormone is ICSH or LH. ICSH stands for interstitial cells stimulating hormone, and this hormone stimulates or activates Leydig cells. to produce testosterone. Leydig cell is also called interstitial tissue, isn't it? So Leydig cell will produce male hormone called what? Testosterone. And this male hormone will stimulate ultimately, finally, it also stimulates the production of the sperm, that is called spermatogenesis. Now this thing should be inhibited. Production of the sperm and maturation of spermatogonia should be controlled. So finally, Sertoli cells secrete inhibin hormone, third hormone, and this gives the negative feedback. How it inhibition, name suggests it inhibits the secretion of testosterone. It stops the secretion of testosterone. So overall process is again controlled. That is spermatogenesis, isn't it? So student, remember these three hormones: FSH, then ICSH, and inhibin hormone in hormonal control of spermatogenesis. And student, hormonal control of oogenesis you will study in a large description, that is menstrual control of hormonal control of menstrual cycle. Hormonal control of menstrual cycle. Student, now we are on the backbone topic of the chapter, human reproduction. And this lecture or this topic will help you to learn 2 to 3 more questions of this chapter. So this is backbone topic, and the question is hormonal control of menstrual cycle. Student, in your basic class you have studied menstrual cycle. The menstrual cycle has main 3 phases: follicular phase, luteal phase, and menstrual phase. Menstrual cycle has these 3 phases. So how it occurs under the control of hormone, that I will explain you, student. This is the backbone topic of this chapter, hormonal control of menstrual cycle, and very important for your NEET medical course. So pay attention on this. Hormonal control of menstrual cycle, student. This is pituitary gland, brain. In brain, pituitary gland is there, and that secretes 2 hormones: follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone. Now these 2 hormones we have used in while studying the hormonal control of spermatogenesis also, and these 2 are commonly called gonadotropin because they control the secretion of gonads, testes as well as ovary. So in female, how they control, look on the board. This follicle stimulating hormone secreted by pituitary. What is the function of this? As the name suggests, follicle stimulating hormone. So it stimulates growth of Graafian follicle or ovarian follicle. It stimulates, maintains the growth of Graafian follicle. And when the Graafian follicle grows, after maturing, it secretes first female hormone, estrogen. First female hormone is what, student? Estrogen. It is also called, in medical term, it is called estradiol. Estradiol, estradiol hormone. Now what is the function of this hormone? Female hormone, first female hormone, is it play important role in two important things. They bring about thickening of endometrium. Student, you know what is endometrium? Inner lining of uterine wall or uterus is endometrium. They bring about thickening of the endometrium. For what? For implantation. This occurs after menarche in female, thickening of endometrium. This is the first function of estrogen. And second function, student, it stimulates the ciliary movement of epithelial tissue in fallopian tube. You know, student, in fallopian tube is lined with ciliated epithelium. So when ciliary movement in the fallopian tube is stimulated, it conveys the ovum, fertilized ovum, towards the uterus. So these are the two functions of estrogen, isn't it? Now this is the function of, ultimately follicle stimulating hormone does all these things. Now here there is one feedback mechanism, negative feedback mechanism. When estrogens, when FSH concentration is high, estrogen takes this message to the pituitary gland and tell to inhibit the secretion of follicle stimulating hormone. Now the function of LH hormone, that is the luteinizing hormone, starts. This area is called follicular phase. Now the name of the second hormone, as you know, LH. LH stands for what, student? Luteinizing hormone. Something related to corpus luteum is going to occur here. Now this luteinizing hormone will stimulate the Graafian follicle for ovulation. Already you know what is ovulation, release of ovum after rupturing of the Graafian follicle. It brings about ovulation, luteinizing hormone, and the ovum is out now, and this remnant mass of the cell, whatever remains after rupturing, that becomes a yellow ball of the cell called corpus luteum. Corpus means, student, body, luteum means yellow body. And now the last very important concluding step. Now this corpus luteum starts secreting the second female hormone also, that is your progesterone. Already it was secreting estrogen. Remember, student, O comes first in alphabet and then P comes. O for estrogen and then P for progesterone. So don't be confused. First estrogen is secreted, then progesterone. Now what is the function of the progesterone? Listen carefully. It brings about further thickening of endometrium. It develops little bit more endometrium, further thickening of endometrium. It brings about further thickening of endometrium, and here the glandular cells of uterus become tortoise. Glandular cells in endometrium become tortoise. Tortoise means what, student? Tight, because they are filled with the secretion, isn't it? And this secretions is related to the nutritive fluid that nourishes the developing embryo. So progesterone's first function is further thickening of endometrium, isn't it? And second important function of progesterone is development of secondary sexual character. Secondary sexual character in female. In class 10th you have studied secondary sexual, development of the secondary sexual character in females, isn't it? So all this is what? Hormonal control of menstrual cycle. Now in this I will tell you again all the three phases of menstrual cycle. Now this follicle stimulating hormone, this covers the follicular phase. This covers the follicular phase. We can label it as the first phase is follicular phase. And when luteinizing hormone starts acting, this phase is called where the corpus luteum develops. This is called luteal phase. Student, something is common in the spelling of luteinizing hormone and corpus luteum. So that is luteal phase, second phase of menstrual cycle, and third one is here. If ovum does not fertilize, if ovum is not fertilized, then ovum will degenerate and will come out from the vaginal orifice along with some dirty blood cells, broken endometrium, and this melted ovum will come out. And that third stage is called menstrual phase, and that is accompanied by menstrual flow. In that, the unfertilized ovum degenerates, autolysis occurs, and endometrium cell breaks and comes out along with some dirty bloods. That is called bleeding phase or menstrual phase. Okay, students. So these are in this. As I told you, this is the backbone topic of your chapter. So let us recap once within 3 minutes. Question is hormonal control of menstrual cycle. So student, here when we say hormonal, when we say word hormonal, so there are two hormones, follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone. Commonly these are called gonadotropin hormone. So first function of FSH, I told you, follicle stimulating hormone, as the name suggests, stimulate the Graafian follicle, the maturation of Graafian follicle, isn't it? And then that secretes the first female hormone, estrogen, and these are the two functions. What are they? Thickening of endometrium for implantation. Second, ciliary movement in the fallopian tube, and that ciliary movement convey the ovum towards the uterus. And then the second hormone is luteinizing hormone, isn't it? Luteinizing hormone brings about ovulation. Ovum is out, and the remaining mass of ball of the cells, the Graafian follicle's remaining part, is called corpus luteum. So that is luteal phase. And now this ball of the cell, now it is not called Graafian follicle, it is without ovum. So it was secreting already estrogen hormone, now it starts secreting progesterone hormone, second female hormone. And what is the function? Further thickening of the uterine wall or endometrium, where the glandular cells in the uterine wall becomes torus filled with fluid, nutritive fluid, which nourishes the developing embryo. And second is secondary sexual character. So that is the follicular phase where Graafian follicle develop. This is luteal phase where corpus luteum is formed. And third phase of the menstrual cycle is menstrual phase. Menstrual phase we have to say, if ovum is fertilized, then implantation will occur, and if ovum is not fertilized, then this unfertilized ovum will autolysis will occur, and it will break along with the endometrial cells, blood vessels, and it will be given out in the form of blood, and that is menstrual flow. And it is also called weeping of the uterus for the loss of the ovum. This is called in the biological, this is the biological line. It is also called the weeping of the uterus for the loss of ovum, isn't it? Now there are some physico-chemical changes, student, occurring, that is related to the fertilization, occurring during fertilization or just prior to the fertilization. There are some physico-chemical changes. So there are we study three subtopics under this, that is insemination and capacitation of the semen and sperm, second entry of the sperm in ooplasm, and third zygote formation. So let us see one by one. The first one is insemination and capacitation. Insemination means, student, release of semen in female tract during copulation. Release of the semen in the female tract is called insemination. And after that capacitation occurs, student. Very important definition, can be asked in short note also. Capacitation, so remember 3M in capacitation. Capacitation meaning is the capability of the sperm to fertilize, capacitation. But what happens in this, that I will explain you by giving you a code of 3M. 1M stands for, student, that is the motility of sperm. Sperm develop tail and becomes movable. And then second M, student, membrane loss. Membrane of the acrosome is lost. membrane over the acrosome is lost to secrete lysine hormone. And third M is maturation. It becomes mature. In this way, it becomes capable to fertilize the ovum. That is called capacitation, student. Very important. Capacitation's meaning is sperm become capable to fertilize the ovum. Now the second one is entry of the sperm into ooplasm. Let us see which chemical secretions occur here. Now when there is dissolution of acrosomal membrane, after surrounding the ovum, sperm start producing hormone called lysine, and the chemical name is hyaluronidase. This dissolves the wall of the ovum during fertilization. Tough membrane of the ovum, it dissolves. And second hormone, student, is hydrogen carbonate. Second chemical is hydrogen carbonate, secreted by fallopian tube. Secreted by fallopian tube. Student, this hormone or this chemical, not hormone, this chemical, hydrogen carbonate, secreted by fallopian tube, it dissolves the surrounding cells, say corona radiata and all, cells of corona radiata, isn't it? And in this way, it facilitates the fertilization. And the last one, you know very well, zygote formation. The head of the nucleus, only one nucleus gets success, and the head enters the ooplasm, and so this is called pronucleus, male pronuclei. Male pronucleus. And this chromatin or genetic material or chromatin material of ovum is called female pronuclei. Female pronuclei. This is the another change. And so now these will fuse to form. These will fuse to form what, student? These are NN. These will fuse to form 2N, and that is called zygote. So all these things happen during fertilization. What happens, student? Insemination and capacitation, then entry of the sperm in the ooplasm and zygote formation. Student, this question, development of zygote into what we call blastocyst. This is in the course up till the stages of blastocyst or blastula, isn't it? Development of zygote into blastocyst stage, that is also called blastula. Student, this is very important for your practical also, because slide of this morula stage and blastula stage is kept in your this question number 3 practical in spotting. So please pay attention. The question is development of zygote. This is zygote into blastocyst. These stages can be studied in 3 steps, student. First one is cleavage. Remember, first one is cleavage. Second is morula stage, and third one is blastula or blastocyst stage. So let us see one by one how it happens. This is zygote, student. 2N stages zygote. The zygote divides by holoblastic mode. Holoblastic means in human zygote the division is complete. Holo means entire. Holoblastic division. This is the characteristic feature of embryogenesis in human. The zygote divides entirely. That is called holoblastic cleavage. So this results in 2-cell stage. Vertically, the whole ooplasm, or you can say zygote, divides into 2 cells. then 3-celled, and ultimately 4-celled. So these stages are called cleavage. Isn't it? Cleavage means breaking of the zygote, and that is holoblastic. Then it results in the solid mass or ball of the cells. This is called morula. Morula, the word is taken from Morus alba, mulberry. You have seen mulberry fruit, student? It is like a ball of the cells. So morula is the solid mass of the cells. The first feature of the morula is, when you will write in practical or in the theory, it is a solid ball or mass of the cells, and these cells are called blastomeres. These cells of morula are called blastomere, and student, these blastomeres dynamic rearrangement produces two-layered ball of the cell, that is called blastula. Outermost is called cells of the trophoblast, future trophoblast, and inner cell mass. You see, this red layer is the future trophoblast. So again, it is a solid mass of the cells, morula, and the cells are called blastomeres, isn't it? And then ultimately, this ball of the cell is propelled into the uterus. You know for what? For what it will be propelled into the uterus? For implantation. That is the attachment of this blastocyst on the endometrium after a week of fertilization. And the last but not the least, that is your blastocyst or blastula. As I told you, the dynamic rearrangement of blastomere give rise to two layers. Outermost is called trophoblast, and then inner is called inner cell mass. Now what is trophoblast? Student, trophoblast is a feeding layer. So it starts feeding on endometrium or the inner lining of uterus. Trophoblast is the feeding layer. This starts feeding to the endometrium, and this inner cell mass, it forms embryo, part of the embryo. You can say it is proembryonic tissue, and then a cavity develops due to the dynamic rearrangement of this blastomeres. A cavity is left in between, that is called blastocyst or cavity of blastocyst, blastocele or cavity of blastocyst. So as per your course of class 12th bio, only we have to study development of zygote into blastocyst. So student, these two stages are very important here, morula and blastula. Slides of these are given in your practical also, and these are the keywords by which you can make the key statements. So just pay attention on these lines. From this topic, questions are asked in your medical NEET examination, maybe in BSc nursing entrance examination. It is asked. So just see what is the topic. Embryonic development of the embryo or fetus with respect to gestation period. Student, you know what is gestation? Gestation is period of intrauterine fetal development. That is approximately 270 or 280 days or 9 months. So what changes occurs during this time period in the embryo or fetus? So just remember this code digit 13569 or 13,569. This will help you to learn the changes occurring in the or gestational changes occurring in the fetus or embryo during embryogenesis. Like time period, number one means end of first month. End of first month. What changes occur, student? embryonic heart develops. Number 1 for end of first month. Then number 3 is end of third month. At the end of the third month, student, limbs and external genitalia develops. External genitalia means the primary sexual organ in male and female, so that you can easily identify that this is female fetus and male fetus. That develops at the end of third month. Then number 5, end of fifth month, student. End of fifth month. What happens, student, there? First movement in the fetus, first movement and appearance of hairs on the head or skull. That happens at the end of fifth month. So 1, 3, 5 is over. Now 6. End of, student, end of sixth month. What happens in the body of fetus? That is, hairs on the body develops, eyelids appears and eyelashes develop on the eyelids. Hairs on the body, eyelids and eyelashes. And ultimately end of 9 month, that is approximately 270 to 280 days. End of 9th month, fully developed fetus is ready for parturition. Isn't it? So anyone can be asked in MCQ type, and very important for your NEET medical or BSc nursing entrance examination. Third month means trimester. First trimester means your third month and second trimester means your sixth month. And this month can be converted into week also in your these competitive questions. Children, we are on the concluding part of this chapter. Main part, the last one is role of the hormones in parturition and lactation. Student, you know what is parturition? Parturition is expulsion of the fetus from the uterus. That is called childbirth. And lactation means, student, synthesis and ejection of the milk. Synthesis and ejection of the milk. Student, both of these processes, parturition as well as lactation, is controlled by hormones. So let us see what happens during lactation. As I told you, student, lactation means synthesis and ejection of milk. So student, what happens during the first stage is during the suckling of milk. Suckling of the milk by infants. When the infant starts suckling the milk from the mammary gland, this message goes to hypothalamus and it is received by the receptor cells, nipple receptor cells. These are received by the nipple receptor cells. Nipple receptor cells present in the hypothalamus get stimulated, and so hypothalamus release PRLH, student, very important hormone, prolactin releasing hormone. PRLH, prolactin releasing hormone. And so this prolactin releasing hormone secreted by hypothalamus will stimulate pituitary gland. This is pituitary gland. Pituitary gland to release prolactin hormone and oxytocin both. Now what are the roles of this prolactin? Prolactin, student, prolactin role is synthesis of milk in the mammary gland, and oxytocin role is, actually oxytocin causes both the uterus to contract, and at that same time there is compression of alveoli in the mammary glands. Alveolar cells are filled with the milk. So oxytocin causes the contraction of uterus, at the same time compression of the alveoli in the mammary gland. So these two processes, prolactin's effect and oxytocin's effect on the mammary gland, prolactin's effect synthesis of the milk and compression of the alveoli, ejection of the milk, that is called lactation. Okay student, now here what happens during parturition, just before this lactation parturition occurs, you can say simultaneously it starts occurring. Parturition is controlled by two hormones, relaxin and oxytocin. Again student, relaxin, it causes dilation of the cervix. Relaxin causes dilation. Relaxin means relax, so it causes dilation or relaxation of cervix, that is birth canal. And oxytocin causes uterine wall or uterus to contract, isn't it? Oxytocin causes uterine wall or uterus to contract. So these two processes facilitate the parturition. On one side there is contraction of the uterus by oxytocin, and another side the dilation of the cervix by relaxin. So these two gives the way for outcoming fetus. And there is one more change occurring during this hormonal secretion, that is placenta gets separated and reduced. Placenta gets, that is called afterbirth. Placenta gets, two things happen, separation and reduction in the size of placenta, that is called placental changes or afterbirth. Placental changes, or that stage is called after birth, isn't it? So during placental changes or after birth, what happens student? This placenta, they get separated and reduced in size, atrophied, isn't it? So all these are the role of hormones. Student, while learning this chapter, you correlate the lines with the conceptual diagram. The best way of learning this chapter is, or any conceptual chapter of biology is, correlate the lines of your text as well as your notes with these keywords of the diagram, concepts of the diagram. So correlate the lines of your notes and text with all these keywords. So in this way student, we complete our this human reproduction chapter. Main topics are covered in this chapter. Thank you.